In every difficulty lies an opportunity. Albert Einstein. People often only truly see themselves when life cracks open. In the storm of adversity, our minds instinctively curl up like a snail sensing danger, seeing only darkness and overwhelming helplessness. Yet, in that fragile moment, if we stay awake and aware, we discover that difficulties are not here to destroy us, but to peel away the fragile shell and lead us to the deepest, primordial strength within ourselves. Every challenge is a storm. The weak only see the howling winds and rush for shelter, while those who truly understand life learn to read the wind's direction and set sail into the open sea. Opportunity does not lie in the storm passing, but in our ability to adjust ourselves amid the tempest. That is the art of reshaping perception, turning the question, "Why is this happening to me?" into "What is this teaching me?" That shift is like turning a kaleidoscope, the same fragments, yet suddenly forming an entirely new, radiant picture. Difficulties, after all, are the silent language life uses to whisper to us. It speaks not with words, but with pressure, loss, and painful falls. If we know how to listen, we will hear within them the signal of growth and rebirth. A mature person is not someone who avoids suffering, but one brave enough to smile, knowing those very scars are carving out their resilient form. Instead of fearing them, see difficulties as a strict but fair teacher. It is never gentle, yet always truthful. And when we dare to step through, we do not just overcome the situation, we surpass our own limits and realize that opportunity was never far away. It has always been quietly hidden right inside the challenges we once wanted to run from. Don't live forever in the past. Don't dream about the future. Focus your mind on the present. Buddha. The past often wears the cloak of memory, sometimes sweet, making us linger, sometimes painful, leaving us tormented. The future is like an unpainted canvas, easily colored by vague hopes or hidden anxieties. And so we unknowingly lose the only true anchor that exists the present moment. Clinging to the past or projecting too far into the future are subtle forms of escape. We flee from reality, where action is demanded by drowning in what has been or what has not yet arrived. But the present is not an ordinary moment. It is the only ground on which we can truly stand, walk, and build the future. The mind is like a lantern lighting the path. When it shines on the past, the light turns nostalgic. When it beams toward the future, it carries unease. Only when focused on the present do things become sharp and clear. That focus does not mean abandoning dreams or denying memories, but channeling all energy to the place where they can become living reality, free from the chains of the past and the control of the future. Walk slowly but firmly, feeling every breath, every thought, every action like bricks building the tower of your life. And then, naturally, you will see, when the present is full, the past becomes light, and the future opens wide before you. Life is inherently very simple, but we insist on making it complicated. Confucius. We do not live in reality, but in the way we interpret it. Life flows like clear water, following its natural laws, asking nothing but to exist and move. Yet the human mind is like a hand that never stops stirring that water, clouding everything with thoughts, worries, and unnecessary assumptions. At heart, humans crave control and meaning, but that very craving weaves layer upon layer of complexity. A single word, a simple glance is dissected until distorted, as if seeing the world through shattered glass. We no longer see things as they are, only what our minds fear or hope for. This creates a second reality far heavier and more tangled than the first. Life is a straight path. Our thoughts are the detours we draw ourselves. Each doubt, each moment of overthinking adds another loop, making the journey longer and more exhausting. Yet paradoxically, we believe this complexity proves depth and maturity. True maturity actually lies in simplification, knowing what is enough and when to stop. Release the need to control everything. The mind grows lighter. We begin to see with clarity and directness, like wiping clean a mirror covered in the dust of time. And then we realize happiness is not in solving the problems we ourselves created, but in returning to the simple truths always right before our eyes. Life has never been complicated. We have simply grown used to making it so. Sometimes the road less traveled has its reasons. Jerry Seinfeld. We are easily drawn to the image of the pioneer, the one who dares to go against the current as if every empty path hides glory. But reality is not like that. Not every untrodden path leads to new horizons. Some forgotten roads were abandoned because they were rough, dangerous, or led nowhere. Our minds often equate few people choose it with special and valuable because the ego craves difference to prove itself. But that can be a subtle trap. Solitude on a path is not always courage. Sometimes it is merely a choice made without observation or stubbornness disguised as character. In a dense forest, not every vanished trail disappeared because people lacked bravery. Sometimes they tried it, experienced it, and realized it was not worth continuing. What matters is not whether the path is crowded or empty, but the ability to see its true nature. A mature person does not choose a path just to be different, but based on deep understanding and clear awareness of consequences. They are not enchanted by the romance of solitude, nor do they chase the safety of the crowd. They observe, listen, evaluate like a mountain climber who can tell the trail to the summit from the deadly cliff. When facing the road less traveled, instead of stepping forward with pride, pause and ask, is this emptiness an opportunity or a warning? Because true wisdom does not lie in daring to walk alone, but in knowing why you choose to walk. And sometimes the clearest insight is realizing that not every different path is worth the sacrifice. People always have two reasons for doing anything, a good reason and a real reason. J. Pierpont Morgan. The good reason is the story we tell the world, neat, logical, and morally colored. The real reason is the hidden current beneath, where primitive desires, fears, and motives we sometimes dare not name lie concealed. Humans possess a sophisticated talent for disguise. It is like a clever director, always staging beautiful scenes to hide the true driving forces. An act of help may come from kindness, yet it may also be fed by the need for recognition. A decision to let go may be called living lightly, but deep down it is avoidance. We do not lie to others first, we lie to ourselves with noble-sounding reasons to soothe our inner conflicts. Every action is like an iceberg. The visible tip is the reason we announce clear and acceptable, but the submerged mass is the real weight, where unconscious motives gather. And the paradox is, the more we believe in the visible part, the farther we drift from truly understanding ourselves. Psychological maturity does not come from always having the right reason, but from the courage to look directly at the real one. When we begin to be honest with ourselves, the world does not become darker, it becomes clearer than ever. We realize we are not perfect, yet no longer trapped in illusions of our own making. And in that clarity, we gain the right to choose again, to act not only because it looks good, but because it truly aligns with our deepest values. Because ultimately, self-awareness is not a journey toward perfection, but a journey toward authenticity. The secret to happiness does not lie in doing what you like, but in liking what you do. J. M. Barrie. Happiness is often seen as the result of finding the right passion, but that is an endless chase. Because what you like keeps changing, fragile as fleeting emotion. If we build happiness on that foundation, we will forever be seekers, always lacking, always waiting for something better ahead. On the contrary, liking what you do is an inner power, the ability to adjust perception so it harmonizes with the reality unfolding now. It is not resignation, but subtle maturity, finding meaning in what is happening instead of resisting it. When we are no longer stretched between expectation and reality, we begin to notice the small values once overlooked, a tiny step forward, a moment of complete focus, or the quiet satisfaction of finishing something ordinary. Work and life are like a piece of land. If we only wait for the perfect land to plant, we will stand still forever. But if we learn to care for the land we already have, improve it, and sow right there, over time it will become extraordinarily fertile. Liking does not always come ready-made. Sometimes it is cultivated through investment, patience, and a sense of mastery. This is the shift from a passive to an active mindset. Instead of letting circumstances decide our happiness, we learn to create that state from within. And when that happens, work is no longer a burden to endure, but an essential part of our journey of self-growth. Happiness is not finding the right place to stand, but learning to stand firmly where you are. When we learn to love what we do, life stops being a chain of waiting days and becomes a flowing stream full of meaning where every small action adds to the completeness born from our own heart. Don't wait for others to rejoice for you. Any happiness you have must be created by yourself. Alice Walker. We grow up surrounded by applause and praise, slowly forming the belief that joy is only complete when others witness it. But that is a cleverly hidden form of emotional dependence when our happiness hangs suspended on other people's reactions. Waiting for recognition is like handing the key to our inner self to someone else to guard. When they do not rejoice, we feel empty. When they stay silent, we doubt ourselves. Gradually, we no longer live for our own experience, but to be seen and recognized. Yet, the more we seek validation, the farther we drift from true inner fulfillment. Imagine happiness as a flame. If it depends on others to light it, the flame will always flicker and easily go out. But when we learn to kindle the fire from within, from understanding ourselves, valuing our own effort, and acknowledging every small step, that flame becomes steady, warm, and unshaken by outside winds. This does not mean denying connection or the joy of sharing, but not placing the foundation of happiness upon it. Emotionally mature people know how to applaud themselves in moments when no one is watching. Value does not lie in how many people recognize you, but in whether you are truly living according to what you believe. Instead of waiting for someone else to rejoice for you, become the first person to feel that joy yourself. When you do that, happiness is no longer something to beg or seek. It becomes a state you can create, nurture, and carry with you on every journey, no matter how the outside world responds. The best is still to be honest and straightforward. Make the most of what you have. Be content with simple joys, and be courageous when things don't go smoothly. Ingalls Wilder. Honesty and straightforwardness are the starting point, like wiping clean the inner mirror so we can see ourselves without distortion. When we no longer have to play roles, we save an enormous amount of energy once spent hiding and coping. Making the most of what we have is the next step of awakening. Instead of always gazing at someone else's land, we learn to cultivate our own reality. Comparison often leaves us feeling lacking, but when we shift to using what we have, we realize we are not as poor as we thought. We simply had not yet used everything in our hands. Being content with simple joys is not settling for less, but the subtle art of perception. It is the ability to find light in small things, a quiet moment, a task completed, a fleeting sense of peace. When the mind no longer craves emotional peaks, it becomes stable like a still lake, clearly reflecting everything without ripples of excessive desire. Courage when things do not go smoothly is the final test. Life is not always favorable, and it is precisely in those off-rhythm moments that the true structure of our inner self is revealed. Courage is not the absence of fear, but still stepping forward even when we know it may hurt. It is like standing firm against headwinds, neither fully resisting nor letting ourselves be swept away. When these four elements come together, a person reaches a rare state of balance. Clear with oneself, proactive with circumstances, fulfilled in feeling, and steadfast through every change. That is not a perfect life, but a real one, and that very authenticity is the strongest foundation for inner peace. Either you master today or today will master you. Rohn. A day, in its essence, is simply a neutral space of time, neither good nor bad. But the way we step into it decides whether we are the one steering or merely a passenger carried by the current of procrastination, distraction, and unconscious habits. When we are not proactive, today fills itself with trivial things, notifications, worries, and the sweet yet dangerous pull of delay. Like an unmanaged room, anything floods in, piles up, and slowly creates chaos. We end the day exhausted for no clear reason, as if we did much yet touched nothing truly meaningful. Mastering today is not about rigidly controlling every minute, but about establishing clear awareness, what matters, what deserves priority, and what should be released. It is entering the new day as a creator, not a mere reactor. Every action, no matter how small, carries choice, and those repeated choices shape the entire structure of our lives. A day is like an empty plot of land. If you do not plant, weeds will grow by themselves. But if you deliberately plant seeds of meaning, discipline, focus, presence, then over time that garden will become orderly and full of life. No one can do it for you. The line between mastering and being mastered does not lie in circumstances, but in awareness. When you choose to live with purpose, today becomes a powerful tool. When you let go, it becomes a force pulling you backward. And ultimately, life is not built from special days, but from how you treat the ordinary ones like today. You don't need to control your thoughts. You just need to stop letting them control you. Dan Millman. The harder we try to control, the more trapped we become. Thoughts are like clouds drifting across the sky. They appear, change, shape, and fade according to their own rhythm. Yet humans act as if we must catch every cloud, arrange its form, and that very effort makes the sky of the mind crowded and heavy. Trying to control thoughts is a form of unconscious resistance. We refuse to accept negative thoughts, so we push them away. But the more we push, the stronger and more persistent they return, like a spring pressed down. And then we fall into an exhausting loop: think, resist, fail, blame ourselves. In truth, the problem is not that thoughts appear, but that we identify ourselves with them. Imagine thoughts as leaves floating on a river. If you jump in to catch each one, you will be swept away by the current. But if you stand on the bank and simply watch, you will see them come and go without leaving a trace. Stop letting them control you is exactly that ability to keep distance, not to extinguish thoughts, but to prevent them from defining your actions and emotions. People become strangely light, not because there are fewer thoughts, but because we are no longer carried away by every inner wave. We are not the noise in our heads, we are the one listening to that noise. And in that separation, a true freedom appears, not the freedom to control everything, but the freedom to choose how we respond to everything. Peace does not come from silencing the mind, but from no longer being ruled by it. When you stop fighting your thoughts, you do not lose, you simply step out of a battle that never needed to exist.